You hear the voice of your Creator, the mighty I Am presence, with a whisper speaking to you. Listen. Listen. For all the answers that you seek are within you. Ask and you shall receive. Take the time to listen to your intuition. For it is the voice of your Creator that seeks your highest best, your highest good. And trust what comes through. Trust what comes through your higher self. Trust what comes through your I Am presence. For it is the omnipresence, the omniscient, the omnipotent that is within each spirit. It is the perfection of your essence that is beyond and above limitations. Trust your inner guidance. Trust your mighty presence. And allow your I Am to always guide you. Feel yourself surrounded with God's brilliant light that is nurturing your body, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. See all these bodies are in balance and in harmony and in a straight line, connected to your higher self, your perfect self. As you recognize this perfection within you, and know that this perfection is within each one of us. And as you acknowledge this perfection within you, focus on the perfection that is within each one of us. By rising above the physical human behaviors and the limitation, and by focusing on their higher self and the perfection of their spirit. For in essence, in the spirit, we are one. And focus on that oneness that holds us all together as a universe, one spirit and one consciousness. The knowledge, the experiences of those higher dimensions, the universal understanding, the love and the compassion. As you start coming down, feel those vibrations coming down with you and settling in your physical body. integrate those vibrations wherever you are.
Thank you, Ashton. Sorry, we're still experiencing difficulty apparently. Would you like to lead us in songs?
You know, Ashkin said Mercury is in retrograde since September 22nd, and I can tell you as a musician, a lot of times there are things that happen with electronica that defy explanation other than Mercury. Let's do hymn number 11. I've got the joy, joy, joy. And people, if you can give me a beat, just start clapping and I'll know how we're going to sing that. That's hymn number 11. I've got the joy. So.
Well, now it's time to go ahead and to welcome our pastor, Reverend Steve Adkins, for the message of the day from the pastor. So please come up, Steve.
Good morning. Had a little bit of a wreck up there on 92 and I-4, and it took me about a half hour to get through it, so I apologize for being late. I thought the thought for the day was already going to be done, so I stopped thinking about it. So this is definitely going to be inspirational and in the moment. It's kind of funny. I went to a trauma surgeon. For those of you who don't know, I was in a pretty tough motorcycle wreck back July 16th. Got a severe head injury, broke my shoulder, broke 2 ribs, and quite an issue. And they're all amazed that 7 weeks later I'm ready to go back to work, fully healed. So, but I officially have a neurosurgeon's opinion that I'm all right in the head. So anybody that's had any doubts about it, I got an official opinion about that today. Again, as a spiritualist, I deal with my life on a daily basis through the perception of co-development. What that means is that I take my thoughts, the thoughts from my spirit, what's going on around me in the physical world, and God's inspiration to come up with a conclusion. within all of this, it was kind of interesting. You know, you watch TV and you hear different things on there. Most of it's garbage, but once in a while you get something interesting. And somebody had said on there, this guy was about to lose it in a situation, and he was telling, this one other person was telling him, he says, you can't lose it. He said it takes 100 times longer to put it back together if you lose it than to hold it together and not lose it. And he said, you know, it's real easy to lose it. A long time to put it back together, and that's true. When I look back over, you know, the events that have occurred, I don't remember anything about the wreck. I had that head injury, and it was a one vehicle accident on a motorcycle, and nobody saw it, and nobody knows anything about it. So I don't remember what happened, and when I look back over it, you know, I wonder if my life was moving ahead pretty strong. Then I've had to sit back, stop. I've had to stop working. Of course, I've been threatening to retire for 2 years now, as people in the church know, and I guess I'm going to go ahead and do that now. But it's all been challenging. It's all been a bit frightening and threatening. But what this time out for me has given me a chance to do is to just look at the world around me without being involved in a lot of stuff. Being involved in things is what we do every day of our lives. We deal with things unfold before us, responsibilities unfold before us. And what I was beginning to do for about 6 months was just beginning to react to things that were happening. I was stopping to feel the spiritual inspiration in my life about what the purpose was, where it was trying to move me. Because everything in our lives moves us in a direction. And I'm not saying that God plans for catastrophic things to happen to us, but it is the final conclusion of some of the things that we set into motion. And that's what happened to me with this motorcycle wreck. It was the final conclusion to pull me together and give me a time out to look at things and reevaluate where I was going. I still have the freedom to choose to move back where I was or move in the new direction that's being presented to me. And it's all freedom of choice, free will. You can't blame anybody for what goes on with you. You can't say you did something because somebody did something else. You have to deal with what unfolds with you in your own perception and be responsible for everything you do every step of the way. And like I said, it's been an interesting thing because I've been telling the doctors I don't want pain pills, I don't want pain medication, I want to be straight. I want to deal with this on a straight basis. And they're stunned. They're used to people wanting more pain medication and stay off work longer, and that's not my intention at all. And they were very surprised to see that attitude. And it all comes from, I think I read something last week about a spiritual consciousness, a spiritual attitude within your life. And the more you practice that, the more it's present, because within every event that unfolds before you, you have your physical mind, which you're never going to quiet, with the instincts, and they're necessary at times, reaction to things, know when you're hungry, know when you're cold, know when to stop doing something. All of those things are instinctual. And they always partner. If you have a spiritual consciousness, you get these two views to things, this or that. And the less that you're involved with emotion, the less that you're involved with any kind of drugs, the more clear the spiritual perception is. Emotion is like a drug itself. Emotion can blind you to things and make you do things that you probably wish you hadn't done when you're done doing them. But within all of this, as you practice that spiritual consciousness, it begins to be stronger. It begins to become more the perception you have first than the perception that you have second to remedy things. And that's the whole focus of meditation. That's the whole purpose of reading spiritual texts. That's the whole purpose of attaining spiritual events and putting yourself around like-minded people, is so that those thoughts are first rather than second to the instincts. And it's never going to be a silver bullet where that always happens. It's a daily effort, a daily perception. Sometimes you win, sometimes you hold steady. I heard one thing one time, and I'll close my talk with that. If you haven't added to your problems for that day, then you've had a successful day. You don't have to always make accomplishments. You don't always have to proceed forward. Sometimes it's just a holding action, staying where you're at and trying to hold the course that you're on. Thank you for listening.
All right, please stand for another song. Thank you.
Sing for the beauty of the earth. That's hymn number 19, for the beauty of the earth.
Today, we have a wonderful lecturer. We have Dr. Reverend Phil Delong. Phil always had a strong tie to the mineral kingdom and his love for crystals and rocks, which has since been revealed to him. He also has a strong connection and knowledge to Native American and indigenous people. Philip has embraced his spiritual gifts with the mentorship of many of great local teachers and guides from the higher realms to whom he's extremely grateful. Philip is an ordained minister with the International Association of Metaphysics and also for the Lively Stone Scholarship. He is no stranger to our church and is always a welcome addition, so welcome, Philip. Please help me in welcome.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yay. I thank you for the introduction, Judy, and it's always a pleasure to be here at the People's Church of Divine Prophecy. I am here because Dr. James Thomas is on his spiritual retreat. So when he looks at this, hello, Dr. Thomas, hopefully you're catching a lot of fish. I am going to talk today about one of Dr. Thomas's favorite subjects, the law of silence.
So the law or principle of silence is that which allows us the space, peace, and time to rest, and in this case for Steve, recuperate from the noises and chatterings outside. The silence is found within the soul and is not limited to sound, but also relates to silence in terms of motion, emotion, and feeling. The law of silence contains also the chaos which can exist in any moment when that chaos is experienced from levels of non-resistance. That means you're putting fire, more fuel into the fire. Okay. The late Reverend Eloise Page of Casadega, which Judy doesn't pass her drumming circle at her part, reminds us that silence is tapping into your reservoir of inner power. Your inner self is like the eye in the center of the hurricane, and the hurricane is your unruly thoughts. Silence has a certain energy to it. Oh, what am I doing? So silence has a certain energy to it like no other energy source. It has the power to get people to think and act. It can help slow the mind down. I didn't lose my place, that was intentional. All right, Ascended Master El Moria, which his picture is here, helps us with the initiation of our throat chakra, faith in God's will, and the word of wisdom. He helps us to communicate on our present path. Call on him and ask him for help within your daily lives. Now, Dr. Thomas and I have channeled El Moria.
You need to put that closer to your mouth, Phil. Put it on your collar or up.
And all right. Am I doing okay?
It's Cliff. For Mercury.
Okay, it's split. Handheld. Okay, I'm going to project it myself. And if it comes on, it's really going to be. Okay, so Dr. Thomas and I have channeled El Moria during our full moon meditations with the International Association of Metaphysics. And usually the message is, don't argue, don't gossip, and know when to speak your truth. When I do my meditations and I open the throat chakra, which El Moria is associated with, I usually say, I am truth. I am the spoken truth. So those are the energies of El Moria. So certain instances where we want to use the law of silence. Okay. It is during arguments. And it's usually one of the best times. It's one of the, no, that's not, so it's, I'll just project. Okay, so during arguments is one of the best times where we want to pull back and using God's will that we don't want to engage into those arguments, or we don't want to put fuel on that power, fuel on the fire. Okay, so what we're doing is stepping back. We are letting our ego out of the way, and we're going into our inner power of ourself. There are certain instances that I have been involved in where I have had to step back. And one is doing some spiritual counseling. It is for a person who was going from psychic to psychic or medium to medium to get the answer that he wanted. And he didn't like my answer. So I was on the telephone with him. And he started using some oaths, 4-letter words, and F-bombs. And all I said was, "Good night, Benjamin. Good night." And the law of silence on the telephone is dial tone. Okay? It's not actually a hang-up, but you can consider it. But that is, there's no reason for me to go into that argument when it just doesn't benefit me and it's not going to benefit the other person. There are several other instances where I backed away from a couple arguments. One was this week, and it had to do with politics, right? Speaking politics. And the person was asked a question, and instead of answering the question, they diverted and attacked the person's proponent or opponent. So there, when you're getting spit in the face, then it was good to just walk away from that situation. When I was growing up, I guess my parents said, don't argue about politics, religion, or sex. Is that right? Keep that in mind. And go to the law of silence. And there was another instance where my wife was involved in, where a person was coming, and they just was belligerent. Now, both of those last two situations, okay, with politics and Ann's situation, had to do with spirit. Okay. Charles Ledbetter says that in our aura, we have certain vices that pokes holes into our aura that will let our ego out of control. Those vices can be smoking, they can be drinking. And those last two instances were that spirit communication, like Jack Daniels. Or communication with, okay, so in case of those, if somebody is drinking in an argumentative state, just walk away, call the maitre d' or 911. You'll be better off. Some will say that the power of silence when we do this represents a lack of character, or you don't have any spine. But trust me, you are doing God's will. And to walk away from that, you are getting that inner peace. The second instance of using the law of silence is, again, gossiping. All right? What I said before, I am truth, I am the spoken truth. Get your information correct. There was an instance where I had said a certain situation, and by the time it got to the 10th person down there, I was just one rotten SOB. And I didn't even say what I was accused of. So gossiping in our life does nobody any good. Like I said, get the facts correct. and speak the truth. That's with our Maria, that wisdom. Another use of the law of silence is one that I am most guilty of, and that is interrupting someone when they are talking. And we live in a world that has lots of ideas, lots of creativity in it, and when you interrupt a person, that is what I would call giving the cold shoulder. I was at the dinner table with my daughter one evening, and she was explaining how her day was going. And I blurted out something that was totally off the wall and everything, and then she just shut up. Right? Gave me the law of silence for doing it. I go, what is the problem here? And it was because I had interrupted her. We have to respect people. I think that when we interrupt people when they're talking, that's a lack of respect. I don't hear anybody heckling me, so that's pretty good. Okay, another time to use the law of silence is when the house is empty. And that has a lot of creative energies that you can use. I often get accused of I'm on the computer too late, because the house is quiet. I don't have any interruptions from the daily noises and clutter that's coming in. And you can write, and I usually write, and then I work on certain PowerPoint presentations. But that's a lot of what I would call divine channeling. It is quiet time that you can make productive use of. Another source of the law of silence uses is quiet reflection. And as Dr. Thomas would say, meditate, meditate, meditate. Okay? And that's what we want to do. It's pretty much our world is too fast-paced, and we're always trying to get from point A to point B in a shorter amount of time than it should take. Right? So we're always in a rush. So if we surround ourselves and connect with meditation in the morning and at night, usually 5 to 15 minutes in the morning, to clear your mind, get your day set out, take that breath and just quiet down. You can go outside on the patio, meditate with a cup of coffee, instead of looking to all the fear that's being presented to us through the television set. Okay? So meditation and a quiet reflection, which what Steve had done the last 2 or 3 weeks or month, that is the time that we have to give us that inner power, to give us those thoughts of creativity, and to move forward on our path. Another way to use the law of power, or the law of silence, and the power of silence is don't give away your creative power. And use the law of silence to work with your inner powers to allow the energies to manifest. And we talk about this is slipping of the tongue. It's like, right, the Louisiana goes down, right, the power of that. But if I have a creative thought and I think this is a great idea, I want the energies to manifest. I don't want to talk to another person and say this is a great idea, and then later on see that, oh, there's my book published. Okay, Dr. Thomas also has had that happen. So, but also what happens is if we tell somebody that we want to do this, sometimes we're met with a whole force of negative energy. It's like, that will never work out. Or better yet, no way, Jose. All right? So, or I get, that's a bunch of BS usually. So, and so forth. So we want to use that law of silence to allow the energies to manifest. I also want to say that Dr. Thomas tells us to use the law of silence after our healings and after our spiritual counseling and readings, and not to talk about them for that 72-hour period afterwards. And that is to allow our own inner powers to work with the energies of healing coming in, the energies of our spiritual guidance. Rely on your guides. That is that quiet reflection. That's that meditation. That is the silence within. I want to conclude with a couple words from Paul Simon from his song, The Sounds of Silence. And this is the first verse. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I'll come to talk with you again. Because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sounds of silence. Thank you for listening.